Hi everyone, welcome back to the ShoeBox with Mr. E. My sincere apologies to all of you because I went on an unplanned hiatus and I know that that's unprofessional, but it was because I didn't anticipate the personal crisis I was going to get involved in. So sincere apologies for that. It's been about 2 months since I last updated you guys which is on the shoebox. So I'm going to make up for that, length of time by giving you a very long episode of the shoebox. This episode of the shoebox is literally a shoebox in that there will be a bunch of issues that will go into today's topic, today's episode. So be ready for it. It's going to be piping hot. So grab a glass or cup of your favorite beverage, sit tight. And if it's cold at your end, grab the duvet or wear a very warm clothing. If it's hot, take off a few layers and feel as comfortable as you can because you need to relax so you can enjoy this. Well, in the time that I was away, during my hiatus, I decided to take a trip away to help clear my head and attend to some personal needs. In that period, a lot of things happened, including my sister getting married. So we will be talking about weddings again, Nigerian weddings. I know you all kind of feel like I do have a hatchet to bury with married people or weddings in general. Truth is, I actually love weddings. They're like my number one occasions, even though I do not like attending them. So, I mean, it's very ironical, but yeah, I love the idea of people getting married. I'm not too sure. I love weddings. I love hearing about people getting married because, look, if two adults, consenting adults, are brave enough to want to ruin each other's lives by living together in the union called marriage, I mean, you should allow them to do that, shouldn't you? I mean, weddings also birth a lot of things, including nephews and nieces. So I suppose that's why I love weddings, and it's an opportunity for me to catch a bouquet or to pretend to catch a bouquet. So, and my sister got married, and that was really a huge news for me. In that period as well, my friend Christine, his daughter, sadly, I did not make that one because I wouldn't say priorities, but it just happened to fall within the period I couldn't, travel over there physically to be with that precious, beautiful angel. But I did reach out to her and I sent out loads and loads of love. Well, so what's been happening in 2021, guys? Well, besides the breaking news that Bill and Melinda Gates are going to be divorcing this year, and that Kanye West and Kim Kardashian are also divorced, and that the Queen Elizabeth, the monarch of Great Britain and other British colonies, lost her husband Prince Philip. What else has been happening in 2021? I don't think there's been much besides all things COVID. So yeah, COVID would come into today's conversation. And of course, I traveled home. I traversed 3 countries, Ghana, Togo, and Nigeria. So I'll be talking about my experiences in this period I was away in Ghana, Nigeria, and Togo. And then my journey back. I'm going to also talk about my trip to and fro. Now, of course, there's an elephant in the room that people aren't talking about enough. It is how COVID is affecting global travel. And I can tell you as one who's just returned from a long, long trip that it actually has taken the fun in traveling. Well, people still are braving it, but it's not as easy as it used to be. There are a lot more bottlenecks, a lot more roadblocks that you have to scale through successfully, and it's a lot more expensive to actually travel. So without diving into the details about COVID, I'm going to start off with wedding. So it was sometime October last year, I think. Was it October or September? I've forgotten. I got a call from my sister. We usually text and chat and, all things, career, personal life, and some gossip, because if you're peddling or sharing some gossip with your sisters, why'd you have them in life? I mean, so I got a call from my sister, and she told me that she was getting married at someone had had her hand in marriage. So before this had happened, of course, this young man must have met my parents at some stage. Being traditionally Nigerian family, Nigerian Christian family, religious family, so things have to, follow a certain procedure. So the said young man must have met my family, my parents, to be precise, to have asked to ask her hand, the permission to marry their daughter. So he done that. So prior to that, he actually proposed to her in a private engagement party that my parents didn't know. So, mom, dad, if you're watching this, haha. Well, so he'd engaged, they've been engaged, and then proceeded then to officially, go for the traditional list, which we call knocking on the door or knocking at the door, which preposition suit, I don't know, knocking on the door, yeah, which is officially bringing the young man coming by himself or with a kinsman to actually ask my sister's hand in marriage. Now that is usually followed by the introduction, where the bride's family will host their soon-to-be in-laws at their residence. So it's not usually a big occasion, and some people want to go all out just to, they might as well kill two birds in one stone, and I'll get to that later. So that happens. So usually the closest relatives of the bride's family, her favorite uncles and aunt, cousins, and a few friends and well wishers. They might even extend some invitation to members of the church or just social gatherings. So that was done, and I got to talk to my brother-in-law for the very first time. I saw him, and I watched it live. So it was a bit it was a very emotional experience for me because of all my siblings. This was the first time I was getting to do I was going to be part of the introduction. Yeah, so I actually watched it. They dialed me and I watched most of the important part, and then when it got very traditional and cultural, I just asked to be excused because I couldn't be, asked about those ones. It was big, and people came dressed nicely. Usually, literally, what it entails is that they host the in-laws introduce themselves to the bride's family, and the bride's family introduce themselves to the in-laws, and then the young man has a spokesperson, and he makes his intentions known to the bride's family and the kinsmen, of course. So he tells them that he wants to marry their daughter. The way they say it, we get one flower where we see for a compound where we one plug. Like there is a beautiful flower. It could be rose, it could be ixora, it could be whatever flower, but that flower is beautiful, and we want to pluck that flower and bring it into from your garden into our garden, that we can tend to it and nurture it so it can bloom to excellence. So that is usually one of the lines they use. Or some will say, my odara don't fall for your compound. So the odara is the African giant star fruit. It can be sour, it could be sweet, but when we say odara, we usually mean the sweet one in this context. So some people can be very kind of a local in that sense, but to say, yeah, we there's a young, beautiful young lady that appeals to my taste, and I love her, and I want to marry her, make an honest woman out of her. So she too can make an honest man out of me. So I'm asking her hand in marriage, and I'm asking your permission to proceed here. So then the bride's father, the girl's father, I need to stop using the bride because it's not the wedding yet, it's still the introduction. So the girl's father, in this case my father, would have said to my mom, at this point she is not allowed to sit out where the gathering is taking place. So my sister, or the girl, sits in a bedroom or in some sort of room where she's being tended to by friends or some older married ladies or aunts that have experienced marriage or maybe haven't been married. So they just keep her there and they tease her a little bit about getting married and things like that. So then the girl's father sent words to the girl's mother to bring the girl. So, and she comes out and she greets everyone gracefully, because you have to, well, you don't have to pretend, but just be yourself. So usually a lot of the women will look very subdued that day because it's like you have to really act to like the goody two shoe wife, so they know that you're really a wife material. So your in-laws will be like, we really got it decent, we got the best one out of them. So when that happens, the girl comes out, greets everyone, greets her in-laws, and then she's asked if this proposition from the young man is true. She has to say yes or no. If she says yes, then it means then that they can proceed with the next plan. If she says no, it means then that is the end of the road, which would have meant that both families would have wasted money and time, coming for the introduction. So what's the point? Anyway, just 1 second. I need to tend to my pot of flour. It's not really. Oh yeah, that's better. So, so after that, there's a lot of feasting. There's food, there's drinks. In our case, non-alcoholic drinks, which it's usually it's strictly something religious anyway. So after that, then both families would then fix dates when they can talk. So there is something called the list. The marriage list causes a lot of trouble because it makes it appear like you are selling your daughter, like your daughter is some sort of asset, some commodity that some other guy has to acquire from you. In some cultures, I don't want to mention any tribes, but I wouldn't want to, but I have to because we need to kind of put things into perspectives. So they're considering a few things like the family status in society, the girl's status of career, and a few other things like aesthetic qualities, beauty, and skin tone as well, if she lives in Nigeria or abroad. So these are some things that some communities will consider when they are fashioning out their marriage list. Luckily, in my community, they're not really mean when it comes to, they don't really ask for an arm and a leg or kind of make the guy go out of pocket. So and my dad doesn't believe in selling out his daughters. He believes that marriage is give and take. So he's getting a son and the other family is getting a daughter. That's the way it works. Now in some cultures, now I'm going to be very specific. The Mbese community or group are a large group in the southern eastern states, Imo State, yeah. So they are famous for having exorbitant bride a marital list. So it's literally like you're taking care of the entire community, like you have to pay huge sums of money or fulfill all the rights. So at the end of it, you just say to yourself, I've bought this lady, so she's literally my property. And this can have some effects in the marriage, in that the man starts to think that, oh, you're bought and paid for, so you do what I say, so you are literally my property. When I say jump, you ask how high, but so my dad has been very clear on his stand that he is not selling any of his daughters to anybody. So unfortunately, there's literally very little you can do about the marriage list because it's not up to the girl's family to decide. There is a marriage committee in every community, and they organize, they come up with this marriage list, which they edit from time to time. From what I gathered from my dad, the list had been edited, and a lot more items, or the monetary value for those items, have been increased from the last time my other sister got married, and he felt like it wasn't fair on his would-be son-in-law, but there's literally nothing he can do about it. So so the young man is tasked with fulfilling a lot of the things on the list. So some of the things include, they're split into 3 categories. You have the things you do for the father, the things you do for the mother, the things you do for the community, and then there is a few items when they say, a few times they say things you do for the bride's siblings. So keep in mind that most of the things on the list do not even go to the bride's father or to the mom, except things like the clothes that the bride's father would wear on the wedding on both days, that will be provided for by the groom, and the mom as well. So things like wine, gold, and say by a machete, say a grass cutter, which is like a famous exotic bushmeat or things like drinks, whatever it is. The money actually goes to the people on the marriage committee or the kinsmen. Now here is the catch. Here's the thing. Like some girls, some ladies would have been trained by a sibling, that's to say that they may have lost their parents at a very tender age and the parents didn't really train them, you know, or maybe the parents would have passed on regardless at whatever age, and uncles and aunts would have kind of turned blind eyes and deaf ears to their needs. But when it comes to marriage, they want to benefit. This is where I think the marriage culture is unfair from where I come from, you know. And so it should be those who really, contributed to the well-being and upbringing of the bride that should be benefiting from it, not some uncle who sat with his hands deep in his pocket without even asking, how are you faring, especially in the cases of people who lost both parents. So they shouldn't be benefiting from this. I mean, I'm saying this not because of not because my parents, my sisters had to go through this, but because one of my sisters-in-law had experienced it. And it's not fair that the immediate family, which would be her brothers or her sisters, do not actually get to enjoy in this marriage list or bride price, right? So, and then you have things in the mother's list like soap, toilet papers, and just toiletries in general, cooking stuff, fish meat, cooking oil, cooking fuel, kerosene, stove or gas cooker, a pile of wrappers or things like that that they usually add to the list. And sometimes they even ask that you roof the building or complete the building that the parents are currently undertaking. Other times it'd be like school fees and things like that. And a lump of money that goes to kinsmen, of course, drinks that have to be given to them. So guys, it's really not easy getting married in Nigeria. Then you wonder why a lot of eligible men are single still. So well, it's the fact that the marriage list is scary, especially if you're from the south or the southeastern parts of Nigeria. In the other parts of Nigeria, the western and the northern part, it is quite different. From my understanding, in the West, it's not the guy's family who pays the bride price or the dowry. It's actually the other way around. This will kind of mirror a lot of cultures in an Indian setting, because then it's more like you're giving something to your would-be son-in-law or your son-in-law to actually help in taking care of your daughter and helping making sure that they do not lack at the early stages of their marriage. But in my culture, it's the other way around. The groom's family actually is squeezed dry. They try to get as much money out of you as you can. So back to the embassy culture. So if the girl is fair, oh, the bride price goes up even higher. If she's educated, it doesn't matter. If she has a bachelor's degree, it goes up even a notch higher. Oh, God bless you, and she has a master's or a PhD. Boy, girl, it's not easy. If she's educated abroad or is a lawyer or a doctor, man, she's a cash cow. That's exactly what it feels like. She is a cash cow. So a lot of people will be like, we can't afford it. So this usually kind of causes the suitors to develop cold feet and then want to back out of the whole process. So what some people do is the families will meet with the suitor to let him know that they are on his side and they do not mean to squeeze him dry to extort him. But this is the way the culture is. It's the way the culture is. So you have to do this is this is me speaking Igbo now. So you have to appease the Amala. The Amala is the community. So you have to really do all of this because our culture is such that we agree and we state and practice that it takes a village to raise a child. So if I were to get married, it's not going to be just me getting married. My family will be involved. My community would also want to share in it. So it's the way it works. So the bride's family would meet with the groom and to say, look, we know it's a lot of money, but let us know where we can come in. But so men being very egotistic about it would rather die in silence, go borrowing instead of accepting help. And I get that this can be viewed in different light. If you accept help from your in-laws at a very early stage, it can be viewed that you are unable to look after your family, you can't fend for their daughter, and that might even attract with it some insult or some less a privileged treatment. They might not regard you as much as they would regard an in-law who actually paid everything without seeking help. But there has to be a fine line. I don't believe that intending couples, should go out of pocket because they're getting married, because they want to have a wedding of their dreams. I think I touched on this when I talked about Nigerian weddings. So you need to cut your coat according to the cloth you have, not your size. That's the important thing. So I've heard of instances where if the bride's mother was a dealer in, say, food stock, or maybe some of the items on the list, she can actually, have this. They can stage it like that the groom actually brought it. At the end of the day, she takes it back. That way, the groom isn't spending and they aren't losing. So it just goes back to the business that way. And sometimes the family could say, you can do this later for us. Or what some family do is they have a closed door, behind the door, a setting where they take care of some of the items on the list. So they actually just come out to the Amala people to say, oh, we've taken care of this and that. So the groom only has to take care of a few things. Now, he doesn't have to go running around looking for millions of naira to settle everything on the list. This actually, I think, is a very great way of doing things. You really don't have to show the Ohanese or the Amala or the community that your in-law is not well off financially, or that he's haggling over everything and wants the price for each of the items to be slashed. And you also don't want to run the risk of appearing to be a greedy father-in-law, or one who's not cooperative, who doesn't want his kinsmen to benefit from the bride price of his daughter or his children. So anyway, those are some scenarios, the way they can go. And I've heard of a culture where they actually ask you, this is in southern Nigeria, they actually ask you to buy each part of the body. Now, I might be wrong in my interpretation of it. I think they call it baby fair or something like that. The Kalabari or Quaker people of the River State in the south region of Nigeria, like you're buying the mouth, you're buying the nose, you're buying and at the end of the day, when the woman dies, you return her to her father's house to be buried. Yeah. You see, so it's the whole culture, the whole idea, like you're selling your daughter. That's some people feel like it's a reason why women are sucked into toxic or abusive marriages these days, because your husband's turn around. I paid a lot of money for this, so you're mine. I get to do with you whatever I want to, however and when/where. So that isn't fair. I know that culture is an integral part of our existence as humans, but I also look forward to a time when culture would evolve to more humane stage where women are not being sold as commodities to suitors. But that's that on that marriage list. And then comes the bride price. The bride price is different from the marriage list. You take care of whatever is in the marriage list, but the bride price is usually non-negotiable. So each community would have set it at a certain level, but it also kind of the bride's father plays a key role in it. He could help negotiate. So the way my parents told me is they usually go with sticks. Back in the day, they go with sticks, and then they say it could be a pile of 100 sticks, and then it wasn't cowries, it wasn't cowries, and then they kind of it starts the bride's parent, the bride's family or her kinsmen would maybe start off with 100 sticks. They pass on to the suitor's family and his kinsmen, and they probably be like, we'll take out 20 or we'll take out 80 and start from 20. And the bride's family would kind of negotiate and be like, they kind of confer with him themselves, and they maybe add an extra 70 to that to bring it back to 90. So that goes on back and forth until both groups or both parties arrive at a neutral ground and they eventually agree. Once that's done, then the groom has to pay the bride price. Yeah, and that's that. And so that's usually the way it works with the bride price. It's quite a very interesting process because I've seen it before and been done for my brother's wedding, and I just thought like this shouldn't be happening. I mean, but it has to happen. Anyway, so that was that with the marriage. And then once that's done, and the both families have to meet regularly to decide on dates. Yeah, it's not just up to the soon-to-be husband and wife to decide on their own. They have to confer with both families, especially if your family is deep in church. So they have to make sure it suits both families. The church approves of the date, and the special dignitaries from church can actually attend it. So at this stage now, the couple would have been attending their marriage counseling sessions with their preferred counselor, who obviously would be there to on the day of the joining. He might be the one joining them, or he might just be part of the officiating crew that would join them. Anyway, so once the date is set, then oh yeah, once the date is set, then the first thing that happens then is a traditional wedding. Actually, I don't see any need for the white wedding after the traditional wedding. If you don't have the money, just go to the court and do the registry. It's the same. I mean, these days at the traditional wedding, pastors or elders from the church actually come to bless the union. So you don't have to wear that white veil and the white gown with a long sweeping train, and just because you have to. No, actually, the whole idea of the white gown is actually from Queen Victoria. I think is it the second who? Anyway, she wore her best dress. Back then, the practice was to wear your best dress for your wedding as a wedding dress, and she wore a white lace gown or dress for her wedding, and that became a norm. So intending soon to be brides, if you want to wear black, please go ahead, wear black. It will not be it will not be an indication that you're an impure bride or how dark your heart is. Be free to make your wedding your own. Write that story yourself. It is very important that you do that. You don't let people hijack your wedding. Anyway, so on the day, once the wedding is the dates have been fixed, then you have the traditional wedding, which takes place in the bride's hometown, or if they're far from their country home, which is their village, as in where they born the papa. You can have it somewhere in an event center, in an outdoor kind of setting, and that's become a norm. So you don't have to travel home, but we had to travel home for that. So so then it's done in the bride's village, and the bride, the way the setting is such that the in-laws will come and they have their own part, and they have a sitting arrangement. The in-laws have their seat, and the groom has his groomsmen, and the bride has a bridesmaid and helpers, and then there are siblings like myself who literally are slaves or cousins for all of that day. So we make sure that the day runs smoothly. So what happens then is once the event starts, the in-laws arrive first and they're taken care of, and the bride is shielded, not really shielded, she's kept in a room where she's getting all that extra glam and everything. To see the bride, you have to pay. I had to pay to see my sister. Keep in mind that I had flown 24 hours. Arrived that very morning of the wedding in the village, sweating, tired, hungry, stressed out, and very irritable at that time. And I wanted to see my sister. And there was one of the bridesmaids seated outside the door. She's outside the room, just there, with a big tray. She said, "You want to go see your sister?" You guys said to me first now. You guys said to me. I didn't quite get it. I just said, "Why do I have to say to you, She said, you have to say to me, you have to pay gate fare or toll fare, She said, "Shay, you're just coming home. You're just coming in from the abroad. So you can't give me 200 naira. Now, keep in mind that 200 naira is less than half a euro. It's less than 50 cents. Yeah. So anyway, I wasn't going to give that. So I dipped my hand into my pocket. She said, not deep enough. She forced my hand into my pocket and then clenched it, such that there was a substantial amount of money in that fist, and I dropped it into the tray, and I went in to see my sister, and I saw there were outfit upon outfit, and she had to be dressed in a certain style because of our culture and the culture of her husband. So it has to represent both sides, kind of to say she is now part of both, so she has to marry both cultures effectively. So seeing her there, I was really happy, and we talked, and then I stepped out. Mistake, because every time I went back there, this same lady kept taxing me. I had to shout out to my dad. I said, "Dad, this girl is taking all my money and they won't let me see my sister." My dad Why did I even call out to him? I thought maybe he would come to my rescue. He said, my son, that is exactly what they did to me. I cannot even see my daughter. You know, I have to pay to see my daughter that I raised, that I trained, I spent on for how many years. I can't see her without paying to see her. So I lost that battle. I had to pay again and again. So after that, what happens is the bride is being, she's invited to welcome her in-laws and the guests that have come to witness her big day. So that is her first outing. Some people have up to 3 outings, which means they would have to change into different outfits. So for this outing, she actually dressed in her husband's cultural attire, which is quite heavy, you know. I don't get it, but yeah, it's quite heavy. But she really did embody the whole culture, and she went out with perfumes to spray all the dignitaries that had come to witness a big day, including my dad, the father of the day, and the royal father of the day, who in this case was the traditional ruler of my community, and all her favorite uncles and aunts, and big friends or guests that she'd invited. And then she crosses over then to her in-laws, then does the same for her father-in-law and her mother-in-law, sisters-in-law, and her husband's friends. So anyway, and she does that, and then she's invited to the center stage by the MC, and sorry, I need to go back. So she doesn't come out on her own. She comes out with a whole entourage, as in these girls are dressed specially, and there is also the maid of honor there, supporting her. Some of her older cousins or siblings, all girls, because in the agreement we could do this thing. So they're there with an umbrella shielding her from the sun and supporting her. It is very significant that you have the support. It goes to show that your union is blessed. It has the support of your family and friends and loved ones. So I had 2 of my older cousins there, females of course, and they were there, leading her out. I had my other sister there also leading her out. Then there were cousins and friends who were dancing to kind of, announce her entrance, her arrival, her presence, so to say. So after that, and some of these girls have fruits or eggs that the bride sells. Now, some of this is literally kind of a way for people to make money on the traditional weddings. So they feel like for the new couple, they need to start life comfortably so they don't have to struggle. So each of these eggs goes for about, is it 500 naira, 1,000 naira? So you have to buy one. So people just buy as much as they can. So it could be up to 100 eggs that have been sold, or fruits that have been sold that day. So yeah, and to show support, you just buy, and all the money goes to the couple. And then after that, she goes in to change. Then her husband has to come then to show his in-laws who he is. And if you're really the shy type, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're full of energy and you're very bubbly, like an extrovert, you can go out there and make a presence, create, kind of a huge presence, so people can actually know that, yeah, you are here, as in you don't enter. That is to say that you will never go unmarked. Your in-laws would know you. So my brother-in-law, I actually was looking out for him, but dude had been swept by his men, and they had dressed him up. Next thing I saw, he was there, chanting and hating, full of energy, which I think I'd never seen before. And once he's done greeting, and he goes back in, because now the second outing is very significant. It's actually the most important part of the traditional wedding. So he has to then dress up, right? Of course, the bride knows what her husband will be wearing, but what she doesn't really know is where he is seated. He has to hide, and the bride comes out on her second outing, and the bride's father gives her a bottle of wine. Sometimes it could be a glass of wine, to go in search of the man she intends to spend the rest of her life with. So it's very significant, because I don't think it's been unheard of that the bride brought another man. Because let's say whoever she brings to the father that day is the man she's gonna marry. So I don't think it's been unheard of. I think it's happened. I just maybe don't remember it, that the girl or the lady went out and searched and brought another man, and probably that's the man she really wanted to marry. Maybe the husband, the man that had been parading all along was hoisted on her by her parents. So anyway, so back to the story I was telling you guys. So the bride comes out and she gets that wine, and the father makes a very brief speech and tells her to go in search. So it is up to her crew, as in her bridesmaid and her maid of honor and her support groups, to tell her exactly where this man is seated, so she doesn't have to walk for too long, because it could be very strenuous. You could just have to keep looking around, and it's very fun because all the eligible bachelors or even married men are out there, they're cooing, or they're calling up to you to actually take them as the man you intend to marry. Now largely this is just a joke. They just do this just to spice up the day, but it wouldn't be unheard of that some of these cooings or calling outs are actually intentional. So anyway, so I did hear my sister asking my other sister, where is he sitting? She actually, because he has to disguise himself. He has to hide, literally. It has to be a search, not just go there and pick, not click and pay, not that kind of experience. She really has to search. So she searched, and the music was very colorful, very upbeat. You can literally dance to it, and she had to walk beautifully. Apparently, that is the longest walk I've seen my sister take. I heard the MC say, "Ada, take your time. We're in Wayo. Rebe as in, go easy, take your time, enjoy it, and show off. Make him feel like make him realize he deserves you. Enjoy this moment." So she took her time in search of the husband, displayed her beauty and her dancing skills as well, walking gracefully, beautiful strides. Okay, I think I'm talking too much about my sister. But anyway, eventually, she ignored all of those cooings and those side distractions, and then she found him. When she found him, it was like the whole crowd, the audience, erupted in a huge, applause, and just to say, yes, this is what we've been waiting for. And she found him, and then the music quickly changed, and it was more like a celebratory kind of a victory kind of dance. She brought him to her father, and then he asked her, "This is the man you brought to me, and this is for introduction. This is also the man you're bringing now that you intend to marry, that you want to spend the rest of your life with." So he proceeds then to bless them. After that, they go to sit together for the first time. You know what I mean, for the first time, right? So there's a special seat where they sit, and they are there for the rest of the proceedings. So yeah, now I have to go back to what we do as the siblings. So running up and down and making sure no one's hungry or no one is thirsty. Yeah, I forgot how annoying Nigerians can be and entitled that we can be culturally, just because you're the host, your family is hosting, your sister's getting married. You really have to take all the crap, all the insults, all the abuses. People are very ungrateful. They don't even cut their words nicely. They think they can push you, but I was told to swallow whatever they say to me, take it, and make sure that I do not show my disapproval on my face. But I decided to step it up a little bit, be firm, be assertive, and say, "No, I'm busy," or I have something else I'm doing, or "I'm tired," or "Can you ask some other person to get that done?" But anyway, served food and things, and once the wedding was done, I took my leave anyway. But it's my understanding that if the couple do not intend to have a white wedding, now this is doctrinal, I don't know how true this is, that they can go home together that night and they can begin their journey as a husband and a wife that very night. But my sister actually didn't go home that night with her husband, because the white wedding, which sort of suggests that, which seeks to, oh my god, I'm forgetting my words, which oh yeah, which usually kind of promotes the idea of purity before marriage, you haven't lived together, things like that. So, of course, you know that you have to submit your samples for test before you get married, before the marriage. And my sister did submit her samples for test just to make sure that she wasn't pregnant, in which case it would change from being a marriage or a wedding to a marriage blessing. It would be assumed then that they had been married, living together, if she had taken in before the Sunday, the April the 18th. Yes, it's happened before. It's actually happened a lot of times, so people can actually relate with this. But anyway, she didn't go home with him, and she slept instead, apart from him, in a different place, different location. But the following week, from the Monday to the Saturday, to the Sunday, was very hectic. Everyone was pulling their weight around the house, including myself, who had just come back in, having to deal with the heat and everything. But yeah, that's that. So the church wedding was quite busy too, and it rained humans in terms of guests. Again, most Nigerian weddings do not have a cap on number of guests. So if you heard that I was getting married and your friend heard through you, some other person heard through you, usually it's announced in church. So it's like, come one, come all. So people came in their numbers, and there really isn't a way to plan in terms of numbers. So you're looking at, okay, 1,000 people, even the hall you use for the reception and things like that. You really have to plan these things, but you don't have numbers, which is why I support the whole idea of then, having invite only events, so you have a number, RSVPing. Well, I've talked about this again previously, so people have to RSVP, so you have the number you're working with. So enough about this is my sister's wedding, but before I go, one last thing, there are presents, gifts and stuff that come at both the traditional and the white wedding. The one that I remember vividly is the fact that the bride's family actually shower her with a lot of fabrics. We call them wrapper. They could be lace, it could be wax, they could be prints, African prints. So this is usually a sign of, it will be well with you, it will support you, go in peace, go well, enjoy your marriage, it will be fruitful. And then she's given a goat. Well, I don't know if that's a cultural thing, but my grandma started this tradition for all my female cousins. She gives them goats at their weddings. Now, it's very significant. She gives them a nanny goat, a she goat, because it means she is female. And if it's a male goat, it usually connotes that you're not going to have a child, if she doesn't wish you well, or the gift or the fruit of the womb or gift of fertility are not being, your gran is not really blessing your marriage in terms of children. But she got a pregnant goat, which obviously means it's even higher. It means not only is she fertile, but she's gonna have children, but she definitely, that's what it connotes now. That, of course, there's no science, so it is all kind of superstitious, but we welcome the good ones anyway. And then there are lots of gifts that are presented that day. These gifts are not opened by the couple directly. Usually you will get a pastor, a priest, a man of God to bless the gifts, because it's not unheard of that people actually give with ill intent, as in, voodoo, juju. Yeah, those things are real where I come from. So people can actually give with ill intent to ruin your marriage, in some cases, to turn your husband and his people against you, or to even, tie your womb to make you unable to bear children. Now, I haven't experienced this firsthand, but it's been said and it's been heard that it is true. So I'm not going to, discredit the stories. So after that, then the couple then can go home and begin their journey together as man and wife. If they want to go on honeymoon right away, it's up to them. If they want to stay back and take care of a few things and go on their honeymoon later, that's also up to them. So enough about the wedding and wedding traditions, as I witnessed firsthand during my sister's wedding. So traveling in a COVID-esque era, traveling has changed, guys. So we're no longer in the era of one, book a flight, or think of a place to go, book the flight, or if you don't need a visa, just book a flight. If you need a visa, apply for it, and pack up, get on the plane, and go. You now have to think about a whole lot of other things. Well, what are the public health guidelines in the country you live in? Are you allowed to travel to certain countries, to every country? Do you have to quarantine or isolate when you come back? If you have a job, if you're not self-employed, as in you have a job, you're booking for holiday, you need to factor in the days as well that you're going to quarantine. So yeah, I took some paid holidays, and then I took some unpaid holidays, which literally means that my paid holidays are down to almost zero at this point. So you have to quarantine when you come back. So which countries are on the red list, which means you have to quarantine in a hotel. You have to pay about €2,000 for about 12 to 14 days. Compulsory quarantine in a hotel. If you don't go to any of the countries in the red list or fly through them, even transiting in a period of 14 days that you're prior to you arriving in the country, you can isolate in your own apartment. So think about all of this. So it was even more stressful for me. I had to keep checking, the news from the Department of Foreign Affairs, and checking everything, and just making sure that I wasn't affected. Thankfully, I was vaccinated before going for the wedding. So Nigeria popped up on the list a week to the wedding, and I didn't think that I would get away with being vaccinated. So I quickly canceled that trip and rebooked it to fly through a different country, and flying through Istanbul to Accra. And then, well, I wouldn't, like, this is completely me being an idiot, and I'm not even proud of this, but I did it. So yeah, I'm not proud of saying this, but I did it. So the aim was that Nigeria, my travel history doesn't include Nigeria, because sometimes they don't even stamp your passport, or you can just pay and get away without stamping your passport. So I went through Ghana, I went through Togo, I went to Nigeria, and all of this. I had a great time. So think about it, and then you also have to think about the COVID test. Does the country you're flying to or transitioning through require the PCR, the RT-PCR test, or the antigen one? The PCR one is actually more reliable than the antigen one. You have to factor in how much you're going to have to pay for that. Yeah, not to, I'm not factoring in how much money now you have to spend because you're breaking your flight. So think about that too. The country you're going through, do you need extra visa for that? Do you need to isolate as well if you're spending a day or two before you continue onwards to your final destination? And so if when you're flying into that country, what is the public health requirement in terms of COVID? Do you have to also do the COVID test? So in my case, I did a COVID test in Ireland 48 hours before I traveled. And guys, they don't tell you guys this. They didn't tell me this, but that thing, it hurts. It's very discomforting, to be very honest. So it felt like someone was really, how you pick your nose from time to time, and you really don't feel it, even when your nails are, slightly long. You kind of stick your finger up in your nose, and then you twirl it around, and then you bring it out. See, the whole sample collection process is very much different. The stab really goes in, I think, really up to this point, you really feel it. So if you have a bit of allergy, you're kind of prone to allergy, you're going to be sneezing and running for all of that day, or even much longer. So I felt it. And then the one swabbing your mouth, your throat, it felt like someone was literally scraping up my tonsils. So it was a bit rough, but I had to do it for the trip that I had planned. For 6 months, I've planned this holiday for 6 months. I was not about to let €2,000 get in my way. So I said I was going to go regardless. If my travel history was going to show up that I traveled to a red list country, I would pay anyway. So the COVID test is very important that you actually think about that. And you have to make sure that your employer is aware that you would be needing quarantine. You need to isolate for a certain number of days. And then when you're coming back, guys, you have to do another test. So if you're flying through 3 countries, each of these countries will require a test. So how much did you plan initially for your trip? So now you're looking at it like it's obviously at least doubled. So looking at about 3 times the initial budget. So this is the extent to which COVID has messed up global traveling. So If you can't afford it, guys, scratch international journeys this year. You won't die. Wait until 2023, because I don't even think 2022 is going to be any different. So then when you're coming back, what are the COVID-19 requirements from your country as well? So some countries will require you to tell you, look, like in Ireland, they say you've been to a red list country, you have to book that hotel accommodation 2 days before you arrive. Or if you're going to the UK, not only would you have to book for that, if you also have to pay for 2 tests on day 2 and day 8. But for Ireland, that doesn't really apply. The 2 tests don't really apply. They just, tell you to quarantine and they track you. You have to fill out the passenger locator form. So they can trace you and things like that and keep you up to date. Do take it seriously, guys. Do not break your isolation or your quarantine. You're not only doing people a lot of good, but it's the right thing to do. So when I was coming back, my flatmate texted me to say, when will he be back? And I gave him my date. He'd forgotten anyway, because I'd stayed longer than I planned to. It was that fun. I gave him the date. He said, well, I thought it was going to be today. I said, no, it's the following, it's the coming week. So he suggested, even without him suggesting, I knew that I was going to do that anyway, that for the period I was going to come in, that very first day is crucial. We're going to kind of have a bubble. I would stay in a bubble. I know it's very understanding. He gave me, if I needed something from the kitchen, I would shout out to him and he'll give it to me and I'll just use it. So that was how we got around that first day, and then he traveled. So making this video, I'm actually up myself at home, so I didn't have to isolate anymore. So by the time he comes in, I would have been out of my isolation. So yeah, think about that before you really take that risk. Is it really worth it? Do you have the money? Would you be out of pocket? So those are some of the things you have to consider now when you're traveling. And that brings us to the next part of today's episode of the ShoeBox, dealing and surviving the scorching sun of the sub-Saharan climate in Nigeria and Ghana. Yeah, weather actually. So not all of you know, but most of you, a good number of you would know that I'm big into skincare. I love my skin. Look at that. It's almost flawless. I don't think it's as flawless as I want it to be or need it to be, but I do take care of my skin a whole lot than I do other parts of my body. Don't think about it too much, okay? But so going back, I made sure I have my cleansing products, my hydrating serum, my treatment ones like my caffeine eye cream, my retinol, vitamin C, or niacin or nicotinamide. Any of those things are needed. And I also had my moisturizer. All of these, I made sure I had it, including what? My sunscreen, because a few times I have been burned. You don't think that people of color, black skinned people will get burned. We do get burned, but you just don't see it immediately. We feel that stinging effect on our skin. So just to make sure I wasn't coming back looking like some burnt offering or overly toasted or barbecued, I made sure I took the necessary steps, brought my products with me. So I probably forgot that the humidity was different. So normally I would have 2 drops of my hydrating serum and dab that on my face, and I will be fully hydrated for about 48 hours, looking pang, young, skin looking flawless, very youthful. You would even think I drank from a chalice of eternal youthfulness. But anyway, first day in Nigeria, and I tried that stuff. That Vichy 89, mineral 89 thermal water, it's very potent, as is the Hydroface Intense from La Roche-Posay. Either of them gave me the same result. They literally pulled all of the moisture in the atmosphere right on my face. The minute I stepped out of the air-conditioned room or car, I was wet. And if you have dry skin like myself, yeah, moisturizing, big mistake. So I just had to cut back on how much I use. So there's really no science to it. So I just a tiny bit of everything, and I made sure I wasn't really wearing thick clothes. I was wearing very light breathable fabrics all through. As much as I could, I stayed in air-conditioned cars or rooms just because I couldn't risk it. Regardless of how hot it was, I had my sunscreen on, so to protect my skin from that. And then I stayed very hydrated. And as is my custom, or my custom this time of the year when it gets warmer, I tend to naturally kind of move over to cucumbers and carrots for some reason. And watermelon, they top my list, and then you add pineapple to that, and sometimes coconut. So I made sure I had a lot of this in my fridge. I didn't lack any of this, so I ate all of this to stay hydrated. Had a bottle of water with me at any given time, because if I'm hydrated, my skin doesn't look pink anymore, So that's how I was able to survive. I started off being, oh, I'm going to show I have a pink skin. But you know what? The humidity really hit me hard, and I had to rethink everything and think about how much of the products I was using. Then the other part of the ShoeBox episode today is actually the one about all the ways that Nigerians still haven't changed. Pissed me off big time. So by the time I got into Lagos, my flight to Port Harcourt wasn't until I think it was 5:15 or 6:15, 6:15, yeah. And I had arrived Lagos around 11 o'clock. So I had about 7 hours, thereabout, before I take off. So I couldn't stay in the airport. What would happen to my luggage? The boarding hadn't begun, so I checked into a hotel, stayed there, cooled off. From the airport to the hotel, my patience had been tested a lot. That I was running low. I really, really tried not to run low on my patience. Then by the time I got to the airport to check in, these folks, Arik Airlines, guys, I'm almost tempted to say don't use them, but sometimes they're the only ones flying, so waiting person go do now. So I'm almost tempted to say I'm not going to use them. I've said this before, but I've gone back on my words. I'm such a coward, like my friend CJ will say. I'm such a coward. Say, don't go around, don't be talking around it. No, call my name. So Arik Air, you guys are very crap. Your service is trash. So anyway, boarding gate doesn't close until, I think they said 5:50, and the flight was taking off at 6:15. So I had raced my way to the airport at like 5:45. I had a solid 1 hour to check in and board. Anyway, getting there, the man was like, we have closed, gates have closed. I'm like, oh God, Farabalin, I still have plenty time, easy, chill. And my friends were there with me. I knew I had excess luggage that I had to pay, because apparently the luggage allowance with these local airlines is very limited. So I knew I had to pay for my second suitcase, which weighed about 29 kg. Yeah, I packed that much stuff with me. But anyway, I said to this man, I'm willing to bribe you and pay you something. My friends were like, oh God, what do you want? What do you want me to give you? Shall I make this our friend? Enter this flight, they go. The man stood his ground. I had to run around, because the traditional wedding, was the following morning. It was the next flight is 7 o'clock, and there's only one seat. I'm like, are you all right? By the time I get to Port Harcourt around 8 o'clock, that's if the flight even leaves at 7 o'clock, around 8 o'clock, and then have to make it through the arrivals and have to then make my way to the village, I'll be exhausted. I don't want to be in a vegetative state for my sister's wedding. So I pleaded with this man. This man did not heed. And his colleague was just looking at him. She would have done it for me. The man said, boarding has finished and we can't help you. So I stepped out looking for other alternative airlines to use. Well, when your village people are really out to get you, they really are out to get you. But there was nobody flying to Port Harcourt. So yeah, I had really shot myself on my foot that day. My friend was really right when she said, leave very early, but often don't listen. So eventually they called out to me, oh, the man is looking for you, he's calling you. So he let me check in. Actually, it was not electronic checking in, it was actually manual, as in they had to write my boarding pass with pen, and I had to bring me through. By one of them, the operatives had to bring me through the gate. And then this said man came up to the gate, as in the gate, the exits to before I get into the plane, and he was being all nice. He was like, do you have anything for me? I'm like, yeah, that chance really passed. You really lost the opportunity. If it'd been nicer, I would have maybe left you something, but you were rude. You really wanted to exert your authority, and you did. Thank you for really insulting and embarrassing me, but I'm not gonna, let even one kobo, leak out of my pocket into your hands. And he was shocked. I got his name, but I was going to report, kind of make a case out of it, but I just said I'll leave it. It was worthless. So I got to Port Harcourt. At this time, my patients had one thing. So I got to the hotel. Oh, should I call the name of the hotel? Terrible service, London Hotel, or as a very terrible. Guys, use them at your own detriment. I don't think I would be using them anymore. The reception or the people at the front desk are very rude. They don't know that the customer is king. The guest needs things done. You have to get the room, cleaned up every day. You have to make sure what was I going to say? They said they have a gym facility and they didn't even leave it open for me. So I protested that following that morning. Was it that morning? No, I protested on the Monday by actually walking out, skipping outside in the open space. And the manager was walking past, and I said to myself, if this man as much as comes to ask why I'm walking out, or maybe to rebuff me or to scold me or to talk down on me for some reason because I'm walking out in the open space, I would give him the bile that I had been holding for the past 24 hours. So eventually, I had to leave the hotel. I moved into another hotel I thought was even better. It was even worse. Yeah, rooms were better, but it was worse, guys. Really, really bad. Not only was the food overpriced, but if you wanted to have a meal at 9 o'clock, guys, you have to order the meal at 6 o'clock, because literally that's how long it took for them to serve the minister that had come to attend to my sister and my brother-in-law a cup of tea. Hot water. Let's be very honest, very specific. She requested for hot water. City View Hotel, you guys need to really up your game. And what is it with hotels stating that women in their menstrual period should not use their swimming pools? Guys, that is sexism. I don't think it's fair. It should not be discriminating. If I'm paying to use the facilities, I should not be discriminated based on what time of the month it is, if my monthly visitor has arrived or not. So that's that. And then what's it with taxi drivers and not wanting to turn off the AC, and some of them will tell you, I don't have petrol. Guys, shouldn't be in business if you don't have petrol in your car. You should have money to fuel your car before you pick up a passenger. Don't be expecting that I'll be carrying cash to pay you. I will be paying you by card, or I'll be doing an online transfer. We don't carry cash these days. It's a cashless society kind of something. So that is completely poor customer service. And because I didn't have an account with the Hackney company, I couldn't really lodge an official complaint about that. So that's that. And and getting to the wedding, everyone is, what is people's obsession with when did you arrive and when are you leaving? Just be happy that the person is around, is here to share in the joy and the festivities that is his sister's wedding or marriage ceremony, and stop poking into the private affairs. When did you arrive? How long are you staying? Where are you staying? Those are personal details, security details actually. So Nigerians are still pork nosers. They still do not respect boundaries, and they want to know details and things like that. Where are you staying? You want to rob me blind? You want to come share my bed with me? It's not fair, guys. It's not fair. The other one I wanted to talk about, you guys hear me talk about this all the time, is people who feel that just because you're home for your sister's wedding, now that you have to get married next. So when are you getting married next? When is your own coming up? Or they slightly put it this way, I know your own is going to be bigger. Guys, number one, it's not a competition. And we're not even sure I will get married. So pipe low, keep it down a little bit. And it's not your business. I don't have to answer you that question. But I was a lot better this year than I was in the previous years, in that I just kind of was very respectful and say yes sir, yes ma, yes auntie, yes uncle, and smiled and went away. This time around, I just had to be very honest, and I had to really be very honest with myself, do justice to the way I felt. So if you asked me, I'd just be like, I was pretty much blunt. I'm like, yeah, and when it will happen, if it will happen, why are you bothered about it? You might not even be there, so why are you worried? Is it your business? You know, guys, if I told you off, please stay that way. Don't come back asking in future. To make matters worse, you know, your parents or your immediate family aren't even bothered. They're not even asking these questions. The people who make it their cup of tea, you know, their early morning routine, are those who probably are, you know, friends of family or chat members or distant relatives. I really don't get what's your own issue with people's marital status or relationship status. If they're single and happy, be happy for them. If they're married and happy, be happy for them. If they have said they wouldn't get married, don't go poking that bear. Don't go poking it, because you might not like what you find. You might not like what they say to you. So that's one thing that's something that Nigerians haven't stopped doing. I don't think they will ever stop doing. And then those who ask what you do for a living. Oh wow, I'm a drug dealer. As na they carry cocaine, they come out up and down. Sure, you want to know what I do for a living? Look me up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you see me. I know they hide them, but don't be asking me like you want to offer me a job. Don't be asking me like you want to offer me a job. Seriously, guys, you don't have to do that. And now let's go back to, you know, the Ghana Nigerian experience. I got to Ghana, guys. I arrived in Ghana, and my jaw literally dropped like that. I felt it do boom, because we have made it a habit, like it's something for us to always fight Ghana and, you know, compete with Ghana. Well, the Jollof war hasn't ended, so yeah, we kind of think that Ghana, we think Ghana now our mate, Abi. Yeah, Ghana now your elder brother, and by culture, you're not supposed to talk to your elder brother anyhow. Imagine say Togo day between Nigeria and Ghana, but when I go leave Togo, climb on top Ghana, sit down on top there, when I want do it, when I want insult there, when I want find trouble. So I carry my two left legs, enter Ghana. Got into Ghana, I was shocked. Ghana is miles ahead of Nigeria. Yeah, Nigerians might be winning the ultimate jollof war, but Ghana has left us. We are lagging behind. Infrastructurally, Ghana is doing better. The education system, yeah, you wonder why a lot of Nigerians are international students in Ghana, because the system works. Transport, guys, it really works. Okay, except everyone speaking Twi to me, you know, because they assume that I'm Ghanaian and I can understand. And the number of times I have to say English, please. Yeah, I couldn't count it. Besides that, I had a great time in Accra. I did. So guys, Nigerians, when next you want to really pick a fight with Ghana, make sure that your government is doing at least one half of what the Ghanaian government is doing. It's not to say that corruption doesn't exist in Ghana, but the corruption I experienced in Nigeria, all the people that were looking for bribes and things like that, I didn't experience that in Ghana. As a matter of fact, you would willingly, on your own volition, tip them for the work they are doing. And the Ghanaian immigration, let me not even start with the men. The ladies are very neatly dressed. Their hair tidy. They are not chewing gum, lousily chewing gum. Tap. Like say they be a shower where one go do night work. You know? And their men dressed well. Clean, neat, and nicely ironed green shirts. And most of them really look after themselves, as in henched. So guys, not be those our ancient money where we see fighting. Lord forgive me, have mercy on me, but we really need to stop it. Even small Togo airport like this, it clear my eyes. Togo, that is much smaller than Nigeria, as the only thing they have in Togo is Emmanuel Adebayo and Vlisco wax as their major export product. What else do they do? Or maybe a bit of Makosa, something like that. Makosa, they didn't carry on come. So guys, what else do we really have against over Ghana? Yeah, think about it. So I'm ranting a lot now because it's very important to me that I actually tell you guys to stop taking Ghanaians for granted. They're really doing a lot more better than we are doing as Nigerians. And if come 2023, you want Nigeria to be better, you know what not to do. You know who not to vote. So, yeah, then the other side of my experience is the diet, the food, the cuisines, and then the fashion. Lagos would always hold a special place in my heart. Very expensive city, ridiculously busy. I mean, everything is overpriced in Lagos, but for a few nights, I'll gladly part with it. A couple of, thousands of naira just to enjoy, the vibe that Lagos brings. Do I want to live in Lagos? I don't think so. The traffic is on a different level. And I believe that it's not even as bad as Ibadan traffic or Port Harcourt traffic, because Lagos has better road network. So yeah, the traffic isn't that bad, but it's hotter than Port Harcourt. Yeah. The human activities there, I think, shoots the temperature up, maybe a few degrees higher than we experience in Port Harcourt, or maybe it's just the humidity. I can't tell, but Lagos is a complete vibe on its own. Would love to go there every time I go to Nigeria. So the food, yeah, I have to really make an honest confession. Yeah, so for the past couple of say about 18 months, I have been on a plant-based diet, as in no meat product. And I get to Nigeria, can't find any of the things I want to eat. I chop everything we didn't give me. I chop suya, I chop bole, I ate meat. Yeah, meat is tasty when spiced well. I ate meat. And I'm not proud of it. At the same time, I'm not ashamed of it. It's just something that I couldn't, there was no alternative. I wasn't going to starve. I ate what I was offered, and that was it. So we're back now to, being plant-based again. So, but the fashion, I really need to give my tailors a huge raise. That guy really, really, he really styled me. He really gave me some of the best outfits I've worn in ages, and kind of made me to be a bit more daring when it comes to fashion. Who really decides or defines what you should wear? If you're comfortable in it, you should wear it. It doesn't mean you're asking for it. So, right, guys, are we together? But anyway, guys, so will I travel again this year? Wait until I tell them my experience coming back. So, coming back, I flew in from Ghana, through Ghana, then through Heathrow and to Dublin, and the whole immigration process had changed. As a question and answer process, you have to provide proof that you didn't go to a red list country. Yeah, I did go to a red list country. Yeah, I didn't try to lie my way out of it, but thankfully, they spotted that I was, vaccinated, and then they let me in. I didn't have to go to the hotel to quarantine and spend about €2,000. Right there, I almost peed myself. Like technology, they're using technology to track you, and you have to use technology to prove that you have not broken any of the laws. So yeah, would I want to go through the stress of of this whole stress just because I want to enjoy another week with my family? No, not this year. I think I'm done. Unless things change before the end of the year, or maybe something really urgent comes up that I cannot, that my presence is really needed at, I would go. Other than that, I'm not going. And here are my 2 cents. If you are traveling, make sure that you plan out your itinerary properly. Know which countries you're connecting from, and make sure they're not on the red list. If they're on the red list, just put aside €2,000. You're gonna have to pay that to stay in the hotel, because end no way they're letting you back into the general population without making sure that you're not bringing any variant of the virus. You have to quarantine away from the rest of us. Yeah. And look at me now. I'm out of pocket by 2 weeks because I took 2 weeks unpaid. How many weeks did I even take? I have unpaid leave that I took, which I'm spending on my quarantine, spending 3 weeks on holidays, 2 weeks on quarantine, guys. If you can't afford that, I can't afford it. So I'm literally eating noodles morning, afternoon now. I don't get money. So yeah, I haven't worked, so they can't pay me. So you have to really think about this before you go on that trip. Think about it. If it's a wedding, are you better off sending a cash gift and sending some present without going? Yeah, I know that your host if depends on your relationship with them, they might appreciate your presence better. But if they have a good head on their shoulder and they are, they really care about you, understanding, they would know that these times are different from previous times where we could just up and go to anywhere we wanted to go. Times have changed, and traveling is not really easy. It's not long as luxurious as it used to be, unless you're really the top 1% of the world population. As in, you're a billionaire, you can afford to get away with some of those rules and regulations. But if you're like a basic, a normal, regular, Homo sapien like myself, please sit yourself down, tell yourself the hard truth. You don't have to go. So just an appeal to everyone whose events I'm be turning down in the future, because I'm not ready to stress myself again. Traveling 48 hours. To think that Turkey was added to the list a few days, about 3 or 4 days before I left, was even very heartbreaking. So I really had to rebook my flight. Couldn't fly in through Turkey. Had to not fly in through Heathrow. So guys, tell yourself the honest truth. Is it really worth it? Yeah, but so that's it on my whole experience, Nigerian weddings, traveling in time of the COVID pandemic, and and all the ways that Nigerians haven't changed. So guys, don't forget to like this video, leave your comment below, and subscribe to my channel, and most importantly, share it with your family members and friends. Make this ministry they go forward. Anyway, as promised, this was a really long episode, and I do hope that I'll be more consistent with content. Yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date if I'm going on any hiatus, so you guys do not just wake up and then realize that I just upped and went like that. Anyway, until next time, it is Mr. E, and for this channel, we're going to bring maturity, touch all of us small. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and bye-bye.